Sometimes Allah allows you to be broken, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you into someone far stronger than you ever imagined. When life shatters your plans, when your heart feels too heavy to carry, when every dream you held slips through your fingers, it's easy to think you've been abandoned, forgotten, or punished. But what if I told you that the very moment you feel the most broken is the moment Allah is the closest to you? What if your pain is not a sign of weakness, but an invitation to strength? You see, gold has to go through fire before it shines, and the heart has to go through hardship before it learns to truly rely on its Creator. Sometimes Allah breaks the walls you've built around yourself, so that His light can finally reach you. Sometimes He takes away everything you thought you needed to show you what you really need. Him. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels unfair. Yes, it makes you question why. But every tear you cry in the silence of the night, every moment you fall in sujood whispering words only He can hear, every time you hold back anger and choose patience instead, it is all being written. Your pain is being counted. Your patience is being recorded. Your prayers are being stored. And the one who sees every broken piece of you is the same one who can put you back together in a way you never thought possible. So when life breaks you, don't run from Allah. Run to Him. Because sometimes your breaking is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your transformation. There comes a moment in life when the weight of everything feels too heavy to carry. A moment when you wake up in the morning, but it feels like your soul stayed asleep. You go through the motions. You eat, you speak, you smile when people expect you to, but deep down, you feel like something inside you. And the world doesn't pause for you. The bills still need to be paid. The responsibilities still sit on your shoulders. People still expect you to be the same version of yourself you were before, but you know you're not the same anymore. You're tired, not just physically, but in a way that seeps into your bones. You're exhausted, not from work or chores, but from fighting invisible battles inside your mind and heart. This is the breaking point. And if you're there right now, I want you to understand something. This moment is not your destruction. It is your rebirth. Because the breaking point has a strange way of removing the illusions we've been living with. When life is smooth, we believe we're in control. We plan our days, our years, our future. And without realizing it, we start relying more on ourselves than on the one who controls the universe. But then life comes and pulls the ground from beneath our feet. A job loss, a broken relationship, an illness, a betrayal, a death. And suddenly you realize how powerless you truly are. That realization feels terrifying. But it's also the most important awakening you can have. The breaking point is the place where you stop pretending you can do everything on your own. It's where you fall to your knees, not because you're weak, but because you finally understand that there is only one who can truly carry you. It's where you raise your hands in dua, not out of routine, but out of desperation. It's where your salah changes, no longer just words and movements, but tears and trembling voices. No, you find yourself in sujood for longer than usual. Not because you planned it, but because you have nowhere else to go. And in those moments, your heart speaks more honestly than it ever has before. I've seen people who were far from Allah their entire lives, only to have one crushing moment turn their whole life around. I've seen people who never prayed, suddenly finding themselves waking up for tahajjud in the dead of night, not because they wanted to impress anyone, but because their soul could no longer bear the distance from its Creator. This is the hidden mercy of the breaking point. It forces you to confront the truth about who you are, where you've been, and who you truly need. Think about the stories in the Quran. How many times do we see prophets, the most beloved servants of Allah, reaching moments where they cry out in desperation? Prophet Yunus, alone in the darkness of the whale's belly, saying, "There is no deity except you. Glory be to you. Indeed, I have been of the wrongdoers." Or Prophet Ayub, covered in illness, losing everything he had, saying, "Indeed, adversity has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful." Their breaking points were not the end of their stories. They were the turning points where Allah's help descended. And that's the lesson for you and me. Sometimes Allah will take away the things you rely on most, so that you will finally rely on Him. Sometimes He will allow the storm to rage so that you will stop trusting the boat and start trusting the one who controls the sea. We often pray for Allah to change our situation, but sometimes He uses the situation to change us. And that change often begins right here, at the breaking point. Maybe right now you feel abandoned. Maybe you've cried so much that your pillow feels like it's absorbed half your soul. Maybe you've begged Allah for relief and nothing seems to change. But let me tell you, just because you don't see the change doesn't mean it's not happening. The seed doesn't break the soil the moment it's planted. It takes time. The roots have to grow in the dark before the plant appears in the light. In the same way, your heart might be growing in ways you can't see yet. And I know, it hurts, it's lonely, it feels endless. But sometimes, the moment you think you can't take another step is the moment you're about to be lifted. Allah says in the Quran, "Indeed, with hardship comes ease, not after hardship, with it." That means your relief has already been written alongside your pain. You might not see it yet, but it's there hidden in the decree of Allah, waiting for the perfect moment to unfold. Years from now, when you look back on this chapter of your life, you might not even recognize yourself. You will realize that the version of you who existed before the breaking point would never have been able to handle the blessings Allah had in store for you. The pain shaped you. The loss refined you. The tears softened your heart. The loneliness made you seek the company of the most loving. And the moment you thought was your end was actually your beginning. So if you're at the breaking point today, don't despair. This is the doorway to a new chapter, one written by the one who knows you better than you know yourself. Hold on to Him. Trust His timing. And remember, the breaking point is not where your story ends. It's where your journey truly begins. One of the greatest traps the mind falls into during difficult times is this thought: Allah must be punishing me. I must have done something so terrible that He's turned away from me. And because of that thought, many hearts grow heavy with guilt and hopelessness. But here's the truth. Not every hardship is a punishment. Sometimes the exact thing you think is a sign of Allah's anger is actually a sign of His deep love for you. The difference lies in how you respond. Look at the lives of the prophets, the people most beloved to Allah. If hardship was always punishment, then why did they face so many trials? Prophet Ibrahim was thrown into a fire. Prophet Yusuf was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a well and imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. Prophet Musa fled from his home in fear. Prophet Muhammad buried his own children, lost his parents, was driven out of his home, and faced years of poverty and opposition. Were these punishments? No, they were part of a divine plan to purify them, strengthen them, and raise their ranks. In the same way, when hardship enters your life, it doesn't automatically mean Allah is displeased with you. Sometimes it's the opposite. It could mean He loves you enough to prepare you for something greater. There's a hadith where the Prophet said, when Allah loves a people, He tests them. Why? Because trials are a means of purification. They wash away sins, they humble the heart, and they train the soul to rely on Allah alone. Without these trials, we'd remain stuck in comfort, unaware of our own weaknesses, and unprepared for the blessings we keep asking for. Imagine a goldsmith purifying gold. He doesn't just rinse it with water and call it done. He puts it in fire, not to destroy it, but to remove its impurities. The longer it stays in the fire, the purer it becomes. Your hardship is that fire. It's hot, it's uncomfortable, it burns, but it's making you purer, softer in heart, and stronger in faith. Sometimes Allah allows hardship because without it, we would forget Him. We would become attached to this world, distracted by its glitter, blind to our purpose. Pain has a way of waking the heart up. It makes you fall into sujud longer. It makes you whisper das you've never made before. It makes you remember that no matter how strong you think you are, you're still in desperate need of the most merciful. And here's something important. A punishment pushes you away from Allah, but a trial brings you closer. If your difficulty makes you pray more, Repent more and trust Allah more. That is a gift, not a punishment. It is a rope He has thrown to you in the storm. A reminder that He hasn't let go of you even when you feel like you're sinking. The Quran tells us, do not lose hope in the mercy of Allah. That means no matter how heavy your hardship feels, His mercy is always greater. What you're going through right now could be Allah protecting you from something worse or preparing you for something better. You may not see it now, but one day you will. You will look back at this chapter and realize that what you thought was breaking you was actually building you. So the next time you face hardship, instead of asking, why me? Try asking, what is Allah trying to teach me? Instead of assuming it's a punishment, remind yourself, this could be the very thing that pulls you closer to Him. This could be your ladder to Jannah. This could be His way of saying, I love you too much to leave you where you are. Pain is something every human being will experience, but very few understand. Most people see it as something to run from, to numb, to avoid at all costs. We pray for ease, for comfort, for smooth sailing, and when life doesn't give us that, we start to question everything. Why me? Why now? Why this? We see pain as an enemy, an intruder in the life we've planned for ourselves. But what if I told you, pain is one of the greatest gifts Allah can give you? What if I told you that your pain is not working against you, but working for you? That it's not meaningless, it's purposeful, precise, and tailored specifically for your growth. Look at how Allah has designed this world. Nothing in His creation is without purpose. The rain that falls, the seed that's buried, the mountain that stands firm. Everything is exactly where it needs to be to serve a greater plan. Do you think your pain is any different? If even a drop of rain has a purpose, then surely the ache in your heart is not random. Surely the sleepless nights, the silent tears, the moments you feel like your chest can't hold the weight of your struggles, they mean something. They are doing something inside you, even if you can't see it yet. Think about the seed. Before it grows into something beautiful, it's pushed deep into the darkness of the soil. It's pressed down, covered, hidden from light. If seeds could feel, maybe they'd think they were being buried to die. But in reality, they're being planted to live. That darkness, that pressure, that's where roots are formed. That's where growth begins. Without that hidden struggle underground, there would be no sprout, no stem, no flower, no fruit. And in the same way, the darkness you're going through right now, the heaviness, the uncertainty, the loneliness, might just be the soil Allah is using to grow something incredible within you. Every person Allah has ever loved has walked through the valley of pain. Prophet Yusuf was thrown into a well by his own brothers, sold as a slave, and imprisoned for years for a crime he didn't commit. From the outside, it looked like tragedy after tragedy. But every single step was a piece of the puzzle leading him to the position Allah had already written for him. A position of honor, leadership, and wisdom. If Yusuf had skipped the pain, he would have skipped the purpose. Prophet Ayub lost everything, his health, his wealth, his children, yet he remained patient and steadfast. His pain was not punishment, it was a purification, a preparation, and a path to eternal reward. And when Allah restored him, He restored him with even more than before. Prophet Muhammad, the most beloved to Allah, buried his own children, faced mockery, rejection, and exile. Yet every hardship only deepened his connection to Allah and strengthened his mission. If pain was a sign of Allah's abandonment, then why would the most beloved of creation experience it the most? You see, pain has a way of doing what comfort cannot. Ease rarely changes us. Comfort rarely wakes us up. But pain gets our attention. Pain strips away the illusions we've built around ourselves. Pain shows us how fragile we really are. It forces us to ask the questions we've been avoiding. It pushes us to our knees, not in defeat, but in surrender. And in that surrender, something beautiful happens. We finally turn to the one we should have been turning to all along. The Quran tells us, or perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. Allah knows and you do not know. 216. This is the essence of trusting Allah. It means believing that even the things that hurt, even the things that feel like loss, even the things that make no sense right now, they are under His perfect wisdom and mercy. You may not understand it today, but one day you will. There's a saying, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. The same is true for life. If everything was easy, your patience would never grow. Your trust in Allah would never deepen. Your heart would never soften. You would never develop the empathy, the resilience, and the perspective that only come from hardship. Pain is the training ground of the soul. Sometimes pain's purpose is to detach you from what's temporary so you can hold tighter to what's eternal. We become attached to people, to plans, to possessions, and when Allah sees that those attachments are pulling us away from Him, He might take them away. Not to harm us, but to free us. It's like a parent pulling a dangerous object from their child's hand. The child cries because they don't understand, but the parent knows it's an act of love. Other times, pain's purpose is to prepare you for a blessing you've been asking for. You've been making dua for strength, for wisdom, for success, but those qualities are not built in comfort. They are forged in challenge. If you've asked Allah to make you patient, He might give you situations where patience is the only choice. If you've asked Allah for a higher level of faith, He might give you a storm that forces you to anchor yourself in Him alone. And sometimes the purpose of pain is simply to bring you closer to Allah. There are people who spent years ignoring Him, years lost in sin or heedlessness, until one moment of heartbreak changed everything. A loss, a failure, an illness, and suddenly they were crying in sujood, praying in the last third of the night, making dua with tears streaming down their face. If that pain brought them back to the path of Allah, was it really a loss? Or was it the greatest gain? This is why when pain comes, we must shift our perspective. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is Allah trying to teach me through this? Instead of thinking, this is the end, remind yourself, this might be the beginning of something greater. You may not see the wisdom now, but trust me, there will come a day when you look back and realize that without this chapter, you would not have become the person you are. The pain you thought would break you actually built you. The nights you thought would never end were the nights that shaped you. The tears you thought were wasted watered the seeds of your future. So hold on. Don't rush the process. Don't despise the soil you've been planted in, because one day you'll bloom, and when you do, you'll understand. The pain was never there to destroy you. It was there to grow you, to guide you, and to get you to exactly where Allah always intended you to be. The cracks in your heart are not the evidence that you are finished. They are the markings of a soul that has lived, that has loved, that has been tested, and that has been chosen by Allah for a deeper purpose. You see, when life breaks you, when you go through pain so raw it feels like it's carved into your very bones, the world will often tell you that you're damaged, that you're not the same person you once were, that you've lost something you can never get back. And in a way that's true, but not in the way they think. Yes, you are not the same person you were before the storm, but that is exactly the point. Allah doesn't allow a storm to pass through your life without reshaping you in a way that will make you more ready for the path ahead. Those cracks in your heart are the places where your arrogance has been chipped away, where your self-reliance has been humbled, where your illusions have been shattered, and where the reality of your complete dependence on Allah begins to settle in. If you look at the world's treasures, the most precious vessels are not flawless. In Japanese art, there is a tradition called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold, making the cracks more valuable than the original surface. And in a far more beautiful way, Allah does something even greater with you. When He allows your heart to break, He does not leave it in pieces. He fills the spaces with His light, His mercy, His guidance, His protection, until what emerges is not the same heart that was broken, but one far more radiant, far more resilient, and far more aware of Him. And here's the thing, a perfectly sealed vessel cannot receive anything. It stays closed off. It looks flawless, but it is empty. But a vessel with openings can receive, can pour out, can be filled again and again. When your heart cracks, it is no longer locked away in the prison of "I can handle it myself." It becomes open, receptive, ready to be filled by the remembrance of Allah. Think about your own journey. The moments that shaped you the most were rarely the moments when everything was easy, smooth, and predictable. They were the moments when you were brought to your knees, when you had no choice but to call out to Allah because every door in this world had been slammed shut. At the time, you may have felt like you were being punished or abandoned, but now, looking back, you realize those moments were the very times Allah was closest to you. Because in your breaking, you stopped chasing the illusion of control. You surrendered. You whispered, or maybe you screamed, "Ya Allah, I can't do this without you." And in that surrender, you found a peace this world could never give. You see, the cracks in your heart are not just random marks. They are openings where humility enters, where compassion grows, where patience develops, where gratitude takes root. People who have never been broken often struggle to understand the pain of others. But those who have cried until their eyes were dry, those who have felt the weight of despair pressing on their chest, they become the very people who can hold someone else up when they are falling. Your pain equips you to be a source of mercy to others. Your scars become the proof that healing is possible. The Prophet Ayub went through years of unimaginable suffering, losing his health, his wealth, and even many of his loved ones. Yet, through every hardship, his heart remained open to Allah. And when Allah restored him, his story became a timeless reminder that no matter how much life takes from you, Allah can always give you more than you lost, in ways far greater than you ever imagined. And here's something powerful. The enemy of your soul wants you to see your cracks as a curse. Shaitan whispers that you are too broken to be loved, too flawed to be forgiven, too far gone to be saved. But Allah says otherwise. He says, "Do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins." Your cracks are not the evidence of your failure. They are the evidence that you have endured, that you have survived, and that Allah still has work for you to do. If you were truly finished, you would not still be here. The very fact that you woke up today means Allah still has a purpose for you. Those cracks in your heart, they are the proof that you are still alive, still learning, still being shaped into the person Allah knows you can become. But here's the most beautiful part. Sometimes, what you call breaking is actually the sound of Allah remaking you. You think your life is falling apart, but it's actually falling into place according to His plan. You think you're losing yourself, but you're actually losing the version of you that could not go where Allah is taking you next. And yes, it hurts. Growth always does. But what comes after the breaking is worth every tear. Because when Allah puts you back together, He does it in such a way that even the parts you thought were ugly become sources of beauty. Even the pain that once kept you awake at night becomes a testimony of His mercy. Even the weakness you once hid becomes the very thing that makes you relatable, compassionate, and strong. So do not despise the cracks in your heart. They are not the end of your story. They are the beginning of a new chapter, one written with the ink of surrender and the pen of divine wisdom. They are the very places where Allah's light enters, where His guidance takes root, where His love becomes real to you in a way you never knew before. You are not broken beyond repair. You are being rebuilt for a greater purpose. And when the rebuilding is done, you will look back and realize that the cracks you once hated were the greatest blessings you ever received. There comes a time in every believer's life when the weight of the world feels like it's pressing down so hard that even breathing becomes an act of courage. When the nights stretch endlessly with silent tears and the days blur together in a haze of exhaustion and questions you're too afraid to voice. And in those moments you may feel as though Allah has turned away, as though your du'as have been locked out of the heavens and your cries have been swallowed by the silence of the night. But my brother, my sister, this is the exact moment where faith is truly tested, where belief transforms from something spoken on the tongue to something anchored deep in the soul. This is the point where you must remember that when life breaks you, it is not to destroy you, but to rebuild you into someone stronger, purer, and more connected to Allah than you have ever been before. Because in His infinite wisdom, Allah knows that there are certain lessons the heart can only learn when it has been humbled. Certain strengths the soul can only discover when it has been pushed to its limits. And certain forms of beauty that only emerge from the cracks of what was once broken. Just like gold must be melted before it is shaped into something precious. Just like the seed must split apart before it can grow into a towering tree. Just like the pearl is formed from irritation inside a shell. So too must you endure this breaking, so that you can be transformed. And yes, it hurts. It hurts more than words can describe, because letting go of what you once held dear feels like losing a part of yourself. Because watching your plans fall apart feels like watching your future collapse. Because being left alone in your pain makes you question your worth. But if only you could see what Allah is preparing for you behind the curtain of the unseen, if only you could see the chapters of your story He is still writing, you would fall into sujood in gratitude for the very things you are now begging Him to take away, because Allah never removes except to replace with something better. He never breaks except to heal you in ways you didn't know you needed. And He never tests you except to raise you to levels you could never reach through comfort and ease. So when the pain feels unbearable and the weight feels too heavy, remind yourself that the Prophet himself endured loss after loss, heartbreak after heartbreak. Yet every moment of grief was shaping him, strengthening him, and preparing him for a mission that would change the world. And likewise, your struggles are not random. They are your preparation, your training ground, your purification. And in those moments when the shaitan whispers that you've been abandoned, shut him out with the remembrance of Allah. Because your Lord is closer to you than your jugular vein. He hears the cries you've never voiced. He sees the tears you've wiped away before anyone could notice. And He is recording every ounce of your patience, so that on the day of judgment, when your scroll is opened, you will see reward after reward written for the nights you chose to trust Him, even when you couldn't understand Him. So don't let this breaking make you bitter. Let it make you softer. Don't let it make you turn away. Let it make you turn to Him more than ever before. Don't let it convince you you're unworthy. Let it remind you that Allah is Al-Jabbar, the one who mends the broken hearts of His servants. And if He has allowed your heart to break, it is only because He intends to rebuild it with His own hands, filling it with more faith, more resilience, and more light than it has ever carried before. So hold on, even if it's by the thinnest thread, because sometimes the thread you think is holding you from falling is the very rope of Allah pulling you towards Him. And if you can just endure this moment, if you can just keep walking when every part of you wants to give up, you will one day look back and realize that what broke you was actually what's built you, that the nights you spent in tears were the nights Allah was nearest to you, and that the pain you thought would kill you was in fact the birth of the new you, the one who trusts without seeing, believes without doubting, and loves Allah not only when life is sweet, but also when life is breaking you apart, because you finally understood that even in your breaking, you were never abandoned. You were always in His care. There will come a moment in your life when the weight of the world feels too heavy for your shoulders, when the very ground beneath your feet feels like it's crumbling, and every plan you had, every dream you nurtured, every hope you held close to your heart will seem to shatter into 1,000 pieces right before your eyes. And in that moment, your heart will whisper questions your tongue may never dare to speak. Why me? Why now? Why is Allah letting this happen? The silence that follows might make you believe that you've been abandoned. But listen to me carefully. Allah never abandons His servant. Not for a second. Not even for the blink of an eye. The breaking you feel is not the end of your story. It is the chapter where your greatest transformation begins. Think for a moment about a seed. When you hold it in your hand, it looks small, insignificant, lifeless. But when that seed is buried deep into the darkness of the earth, something incredible happens. From the outside, it looks like it has been forgotten, covered, left to decay. But under the surface, in a place no one can see, it is being broken open. That breaking is violent. The seed's outer shell cracks, splits, and gives way. It is stripped of what it once was. And yet, without that breaking, it could never grow roots. It could never push through the soil. It could never become the tree it was meant to be. Your life works the same way. The breaking you feel now, the heartbreak, the disappointment, the loss, the failure, it is not Allah's rejection, it is His preparation. He is planting you in the soil of hardship so you can grow in ways that comfort could never allow. But here's the thing, growth is never comfortable. It is messy, it is painful, it is lonely. You will have nights where your pillow catches more of your tears than your breath. You will have days when your prayers feel empty, when your heart feels numb, when you wonder if Allah is even listening. And that is where Shaitan will try to whisper into your soul. See, your dua is unanswered. Your pain is meaningless. You've been left alone. But you must fight that voice because it is lying to you. Allah is closer to you in your breaking than you can possibly imagine. It is in those moments when your heart is cracked wide open that His mercy seeps in deeper than it ever could before. When you feel broken, remind yourself of every story you've heard of those before you. People who thought their world had ended, only to realize that Allah was simply clearing the path for something better. Think of Yusuf, thrown into a well by his own brothers, sold as a slave, imprisoned for years. From the outside, his life looked like a chain of misfortunes. But in reality, every breaking was a stepping stone towards the palace, towards his destiny, towards becoming a leader who would save nations. If Yusuf had not been broken, he could never have been rebuilt into the man Allah destined him to be. And the same truth applies to you. Your current breaking is not random. It is purposeful. It is leading somewhere you cannot yet see. In the middle of the storm, your job is not to understand the wind. It is to trust the one who commands it. You may not see the wisdom right now, but Allah does. He knows what is being removed from your life to make space for what's coming. He knows which attachments are holding you back. He knows what kind of strength you will need for the future He has written for you. And sometimes that strength can only be forged in the fire of pain. It's like gold. In its raw form, gold is mixed with impurities. To purify it, it must be placed in intense heat. Heat so fierce it melts the gold down. Only then can the impurities rise to the surface and be removed. Only then can the gold shine in its purest form. And maybe right now you are in that furnace. The heat is unbearable, the pressure overwhelming. But it is not to destroy you, it is to refine you. Allah is not taking something from you without giving you something better in return. He is not breaking you without intending to heal you stronger. So when life breaks you, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is Allah trying to teach me through this? Because that shift in perspective will turn your pain into power. It will transform your breaking into a sacred process, a divine workshop where Allah Himself is molding your soul. You will begin to realize that every tear you shed is watering the seeds of patience and faith inside you. Every sleepless night is polishing your heart, so it can reflect the light of tawakkul, complete trust in Allah. And one day you will wake up and realize that the version of yourself you have become could only be born from the breaking you once begged Allah to take away. So don't curse your breaking. Don't see it as a punishment. See it for what it really is. An act of divine love. Allah loves you too much to let you remain in a version of yourself that is smaller than the one He created you to be. And if breaking you is what it takes to bring you closer to Him, then know that the breaking is mercy in disguise. Because the same hands that break you are the same hands that will heal you. And those hands belong to the most loving, the most merciful. Your breaking is not your ending. It is your becoming. Sometimes the most difficult chapter in your life is not the moment you fall, but the long silent season that follows. The waiting for the pain to fade, waiting for the wounds to heal, waiting for the storm clouds to finally break apart and let in a ray of light, waiting for the dua you've repeated night after night to finally be answered. And in that waiting, the heart can become restless, the soul can feel tired, and the whispers of despair can grow louder. Because we live in a world where everything is instant, food, communication, travel, and somewhere along the way, we started expecting the same from Allah's plan. We want to see results the moment we cry out. We want the relief to come the very next morning. We want the wisdom behind our struggles to be obvious now, not later. But Allah is not bound by our clocks, and His plan is not dictated by our impatience. He operates by His own divine timing, and that timing is always perfect, even when it feels unbearable in the moment. Think about the farmer who plants a seed deep into the soil. He doesn't dig it up every morning to check if it has sprouted yet. He knows that growth happens in the unseen, that the roots have to take hold before the stem can push through the surface. If he interferes too soon, he destroys the process. Your prayers are the seeds, your patience is the water, your faith is the sunlight, and Allah decides when the flower blooms. You may look at your life and think nothing is happening, no movement, no progress, no change. But beneath the surface, in ways you cannot see, Allah is aligning people, opportunities, and events to answer your dua at the exact moment it will be best for you. Sometimes the delay is mercy in disguise. What you're asking for might be good, but not right now. If it arrived too early, it could crush you instead of lift you. A blessing at the wrong time can become a curse. Maybe Allah is holding it back until your heart is ready to handle it with gratitude instead of arrogance. Maybe He is shaping you, polishing your character, and removing the things from your life that would have ruined the blessing once it arrived. You see, when Allah delays, He is not ignoring you. He is preparing, and sometimes He is preparing the blessing for you. Look at the life of Prophet Yusuf. Sold into slavery by his own brothers, wrongly accused and thrown into prison, forgotten by those he helped. Years passed, and it might have seemed like Allah was silent. But those very delays were the stepping stones to the palace. Without the betrayal, he would never have entered Egypt. Without the prison, he would never have met the cupbearer who would one day speak his name to the king. And without the long wait, he would never have been ready to lead with the wisdom and humility that came from enduring hardship. If you only focus on the pain of the prison, you miss the beauty of the plan. The waiting is where faith is tested the most. Anyone can believe when the dua is answered quickly, but it takes real trust to keep believing when nothing seems to be moving. It's easy to worship Allah when He gives you what you want, but true worship is proven when you keep bowing, keep crying, and keep trusting when your hands feel empty. That's why the waiting period is often the most spiritually valuable part of your journey, because it forces you to lean on Allah alone. When the people you depend on can't help you, when the doors you knock on stay shut, when the means you've tried fail you, that's when you truly discover who has been sustaining you all along. Maybe right now, you feel like you've been left behind in life. Everyone else seems to be moving forward, getting married, building careers, achieving dreams, and you're still here, waiting. But you don't see what Allah is protecting you from. You don't know the disasters He's shielding you from. You don't realize that some blessings take longer because they're being handcrafted for you. Sometimes the road is blocked ahead because He is making sure it's smooth when you finally walk it. And if you could see what He sees, you would choose the delay too. We often forget that unanswered prayers are not rejections. They're redirections. They're upgrades we don't recognize yet. Many times, the thing we were begging for would have actually harmed us in ways we couldn't predict. Imagine asking for rain, not knowing it would flood your home. Allah withholds not because He wants to deprive you, but because He wants to protect you and give you something better. And when you finally receive that better thing, you look back and thank Him for not giving you what you once cried for so desperately. The delay is also a teacher. It teaches you humility, that you are not in control. It teaches you patience, that not everything worth having comes quickly. It teaches you reliance, that the one who controls all affairs has never abandoned you. And most importantly, it teaches you love for Allah that is not dependent on what He gives you, but on who He is. Because if your worship fades in the waiting, maybe you weren't worshiping Him for Him, but for the gifts He could give you. Every second of waiting is recorded. Every sigh, every tear, every quiet moment where you choose to believe instead of give up, and none of it is wasted. On the day of judgment, you will see the reward of patience. and you'll realize that the waiting itself was a blessing greater than the thing you were waiting for. Because patience earns you Allah's love, and what could be better than that? So if life has broken you and you're still waiting for the healing, don't measure Allah's care for you by how quickly He answers. Measure it by how perfectly He answers. Remember, when He delays, He is never late. He is aligning the pieces, preparing your heart, and creating a moment in the future when everything will fall into place so beautifully that you will cry out, "Oh, Subhanallah, it was worth the wait." And when that day comes, you will understand why every not yet was actually His way of saying, "Just wait, my servant, I have something better." There will come a day, maybe sooner than you think, when you will look back at this season of your life, the pain, the tears, the sleepless nights, the weight on your chest that made it hard to breathe, and you will realize it was not a punishment, but a preparation. Right now, in the middle of the storm, it feels endless. Every day feels the same, heavy, exhausting, and uncertain. You might be waking up with the same worries you went to sleep with, wondering if Allah even hears you, wondering if your du'as are just words disappearing into the air. But the truth is, Allah has been answering you from the very first tear you cried, not always with instant solutions, but quiet strength, with the patience to endure, with the subtle shifts in your heart that are teaching you lessons you would never learn in ease. This breaking you feel is not to destroy you, but to empty you of the illusions you've been carrying. The illusion that you're in control, that you can build a life without relying completely on Allah, that comfort means success. Sometimes Allah will break you away from what you love to save you from what you don't see. Sometimes He will take away what you thought you needed to give you what you truly need. The delay you hate today might be the protection you'll thank Him for tomorrow. And here's the part we often forget. Nothing you go through is wasted with Allah. Every single sigh, every whispered dua, every silent endurance in the face of pain, it's all written, all seen, all rewarded. Even the days you think you failed, the days you broke down, the days you felt like you couldn't take another step, Allah was still counting them as steps towards Him. He does not expect you to be unbreakable. He expects you to turn to Him when you break. He does not expect you to carry the weight alone. He wants you to hand it over, to trust Him enough to let go. And when you finally do, when you say, "Ya Allah, I can't do this without you," that's when He will open doors you never knew existed. That's when He will replace what you lost with something better. Maybe not in the same form, maybe not in the same timeline you wanted, but always in a way that will make you say, "Subhanallah. Now I understand why I had to go through that." You will realize that the waiting wasn't wasted time, it was sacred time. Time where you were being molded, protected, and elevated without even realizing it. You will see that the people who left were making space for those who will truly love you for the sake of Allah. You will understand that the opportunities that slipped away were steering you towards the ones that were written for you before you were even born. Life breaking you is not the end of your story. It is the chapter that turns you into someone who can live the next chapters with faith, gratitude, and purpose. And one day, when you're standing in a moment you once begged Allah for, you will whisper through tears, "Yeah, Allah, you knew exactly what you were doing all along." That is when the pain will make sense. That is when you will finally understand that every crack in your heart was just making room for His light to fill you completely. So when life breaks you, and it will, at times, remember that you are not in the hands of fate. You are in the hands of the most merciful, the one who loves you more than you can ever comprehend, the one who is not just writing your story but perfecting it, even when you can't see the ending yet. Sometimes the greatest blessing Allah gives you is not what He places in your hands, but what He takes away. We often think that love means giving, but in Allah's mercy, love can also mean withholding. That job you didn't get, that person who left, that opportunity that slipped through your fingers. Maybe it wasn't rejection, maybe it was divine protection. We only see the moment, but Allah sees the lifetime. We only see the glitter, but He sees the rust underneath. There are things you wanted so badly, that you were convinced they would make you happy. Yet Allah knew they would harm your soul, take you away from Him, or chain you to something temporary that would collapse when you needed it most. Sometimes the delay is not just about timing, it's about transformation. You're not ready yet, or maybe what you're asking for isn't ready for you yet. And when you push against the closed door, you might feel abandoned. But in reality, you are being redirected towards something greater than you can currently imagine. There's a wisdom in unanswered prayers that only hindsight can reveal. Years later, you'll look back and realize that if Allah had said yes to every request you made, you would have settled for less than what He planned for you. You would have walked into traps thinking they were blessing. You would have tied your worth to things that were never meant to last. And so when Allah removes something, He's not subtracting from you. He's making space. Space for better provision, space for deeper faith, space for a joy that isn't tied to people or possessions, but to Him alone. So trust the hand that withholds as much as the one that gives, because both come from the same source of perfect wisdom. And the day will come when you'll thank Him for every no, for every door that didn't open, and for every plan that didn't happen. Because you'll realize those no's were simply His way of preparing you for a far greater yes. So as you walk through the seasons of your life, remember this: every delay, every detour, every closed door is not a sign that Allah has forgotten you, but proof that He is intricately involved in your story. You are not lost. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be for the next chapter to unfold in His perfect timing. The moments that feel like silence are often the moments where Allah is doing His greatest work within you, shaping your heart, strengthening your patience, and teaching you to lean on Him completely. Do not let frustration make you forget His mercy. Do not let waiting make you doubt His plan. Your life is not slipping out of control. It's being written by the one who controls everything. And when His plan finally unveils, you will see why you had to wait, why you had to lose, and why the path had to twist before it straightened. You will realize that His wisdom was greater than your wants, and His timing was kinder than your deadlines. So keep walking, keep trusting, and keep your heart open, because the moment you've been praying for may be closer than you think, and when it comes, it will be better than anything you ever dreamed.